film-obsessed couple. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Scott.
And we're here with our new series, Celebrity Spotlight.
Woo, second episode.
Boop, boop, boop. So we had a lot of fun with the first one, even though I was super nervous.
I've edited all that out so you sound professional.
I do. You did an amazing job. Like, you have no idea.
I edited out. I think our original episode was like 2.5, and I edited it to like an hour and 15.
I believe it.
No.
So I was like, how do you say that word? Who's that name?
A lot of you in the background being like, what the fuck? Oh, what the fuck?
Our listeners should be used to me throwing the F-bomb around.
Yeah. None of that happened.
It was a lot of fun, and if you haven't listened to it, we encourage you to go and listen to Lucille Ball. Even if you're not familiar with her, I think you would find the story fascinating. There was a lot of stuff in there that I was like, even when I was researching it, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't really have to be familiar with her in order to listen to it, because you could learn. Like, I only knew her from her show.
Right. You learned a lot.
Yeah. And while I was editing it, I did look up what happened to her brother. Listen to the episode to find out what happened with him.
Oh, to Fred?
He became like a industry man, I think. Like, worked in Hollywood.
Yeah. I think he was more behind the scenes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Because I was listening to that whole section, and it was like, oh, what happened and everything, and I won't give it away. If you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. But I was like, what happened to him? What became of that man after that whole ordeal?
I know. But today we are going to talk about Bea Arthur, and she is better known in her role as Dorothy in The Golden Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the really tall one.
Didn't know what her name in the show was. I've never really watched Golden Girls. I know of it.
Right. Yeah, no, I watched it a lot. It was so funny. I know, like, most of their audience was, like, older, retired, because that's kind of what they talked about.
I do know something that I can put in, and hopefully it is not in your notes, but there was a spin-off to the show of The Golden Girls.
Yes.
Called The Golden Palace.
Yes. There was also Empty Nest, and even I read something about Nurses was a spinoff after The Golden Palace. So we won't talk too much about the Nurses, but I do have stuff about The Golden Palace.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
Actually not in this one, sorry.
Oh, okay. All of that, I call it senior programming, just for seniors to watch it. And Golden Girls, from the little I've seen of it, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. They're hilarious.
I think they had some serious episodes talk about like sex or...
Basically their life and
yeah,
trying to get companionship. Rue McClanahan, who played Blanche, she was kind of the slutty one.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, we'll talk about Bea Arthur. And my plan is to kind of go through all of them. Hint, hint, you're going to have more coming. To kind of tell you, like, different views from each person. So we'll talk about Bea Arthur and kind of like her role in it. And then I'll go into more detail on the other ones in other episodes.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. So I'm going to open with a quote from Bea. She says, "I've done everything except stag movies and rodeo." And then I was like, I just need to look up stag to make sure
Oh, boy.
I'm correct. And it is correct. It's porn.
Yes.
So she has not done porn. If you were worried about that or wondering, maybe not worried, but if you're wondering, no porn.
I just have to play it.
Scott's got a smirk.
I just have to play it. Hopefully this doesn't blow the headphones off here.
Number 13, naked pictures of Bea Arthur. Excuse me?
Are you telling me she didn't do that?
She did not do that.
That was from Airheads, and I was showing her that earlier because we were going to talk about it, and I'm like, oh, I remember naked pictures of Bea Arthur, and as a kid watching that, I'm like, who's Bea Arthur?
That is an odd request,
Yeah.
but okay.
Well, they were doing it because they wanted to plead insanity, so they requested a bunch of weird shit.
Okay. Well, that would do it.
And they get it. Like I said, one of the characters later is looking at photos, and someone's like, Bea Arthur, outstanding.
Well, she was born Bernice Frankel on May 13th, 1922 in Brooklyn, New York. She would legally change her name to Bea, which is a nickname her mother gave her later in life because she hated the name Bernice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Her mom and dad were Philip and Rebecca Frankel. Bea had an older sister, Gertrude, and then in 1926, Bea became a middle child when her little sis Marion was born.
Oh, okay.
So she's a middle child. So, what they say about middle children is that they're very rambunctious.
Yes.
This is not Bea.
Like Jan from the Brady Bunch, always pissed off.
Right. And I have a middle brother. And let me tell you, whoa. That's all I'm going to say. He had a rough life. Let's say that too.
Her middle name was B for biatch.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
But the family, little did they know that their life was getting ready to get flipped upside down with the Great Depression right around the corner.
Oh, boy.
Which started in 1929. They made a bold move in 1933 by uprooting from Brooklyn and moving to Cambridge, Maryland to open a women's clothing store.
All right.
That would not be my first thing, but maybe they were seamstress.
They could be. I would assume, like, you would think in the Great Depression they would want to do something that everybody would need, because, like, although movies were big, Gone with the Wind made them, well, at this point, billions of dollars because people were trying to get away from their terrible lives. So.
Oh, I could imagine.
But clothing, maybe, everyone needs clothing.
That's true. I mean, I guess it did good because they stayed there. School life was not so great for Bea. Her family were pretty much the only Jews in Cambridge.
Oh, boy.
It also didn't help that Bea was the tallest girl in her school. Now, I'm not saying being a tall Jew is bad, but being segregated like that will cause others to treat you like an outcast.
Yes. Jewish people back in the day were not very thought of very well, because I was reading a book about kind of the history of the movies, and yeah, Jewish people were not thought of fondly.
I know, and that's sad.
Mm.
I mean, I don't care what religion you choose. That's you.
Yeah.
If other people don't like it, that's okay.
It's coming back to me now. When Hollywood was first started, a bunch of movie stars and people that made movies moved out to Hollywood, California at the time, before Hollywood was made. It was a religious place, like a big church area at the time. And then when more movie people came in, they said it wasn't uncommon to see signs that said, no movie people or Jews.
Oh, wow.
Which is just insane.
That is awful.
Yeah.
That's
because
really sad.
They were all religious. They didn't want the movie industry near here.
Well, that's really neat. Bea did consider herself a misfit and painfully shy. She would spend most of her time reading movie magazines and dreaming of being a little short blonde movie star.
Oh.
Because she didn't like her height. Because, she probably got teased a lot. And
do you have it in there how tall she was?
Not at this time, but later on I do mention,
okay.
I believe. If not, I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure I put it in here. I must have. She did win the wittiest girl in her high school class by developing a badass Mae West impression.
Oh, wow.
So Mae West, I had to look her up, but she's got that sultry voice.
Yeah.
It's kind of a deep voice, but
really?
She also has an accent.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do accents. I can't do anything. I can just do what I do.
I guess I haven't heard her before, but I do know of her being an actress.
Mae West?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bea was 16 when she was diagnosed with a serious life-threatening condition called coagulopathy.
Oh, wow.
Usually, when we cut ourselves, we have blood clotting factors that causes our blood to clot so we don't bleed out and die.
Mm-hmm.
When someone has coagulopathy, they do not have those necessary blood clotting factors, which can cause them to bleed to death.
Oh, wow.
So you go to the dentist or you fall and scrape your knee, and it could be fatal.
Kind of similar to anemia, I guess?
Yeah, a little bit. That's usually when they don't have enough.
Oh, okay.
But this is just like you cut yourself shaving,
mm-hmm.
and you usually kind of congeals. Nope, it'll just keep running and running and running.
It's crazy that they would have known about that back then. But I don't know how medicine was. But you just think back in the day that medicine wasn't very advanced.
Yeah, I have a little bit on that. Her parents were so concerned for her health that they sent her to Lindale Hall School for Girls, which is an all-girls boarding school in Pennsylvania. I'm a bit confused by this because, did they think public schools caused the blood disorder?
I don't know, but not to be crass, but would a woman have a lot of problems with that disease?
Well, that time of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When you said it, I wasn't immediately going there being like periods, but
yeah.
When they said all women, I was like, oh, she bleeds.
Their menstrual cycle, yes.
Yeah. So, God, could that be life-threatening?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
What a terrible disease.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because, yes, that is huge. Especially for a woman. And then I thought maybe they thought boys really had cooties.
Maybe.
They were like, oh, blood disorder came from a boy. They're going to an all-girls school.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows? Because she thought she wouldn't be in as much trouble around boys. you
Yeah.
know?
It was just very confusing because, I read that in several places and I'm like, I have no idea what they were thinking.
Yeah.
But that's okay. And I'm not sure if she received any treatment, but in 1937, 1 year before Bea turned 16, the doctors at Harvard University would discover that they could correct blood clotting conditions by adding platelet-free plasma.
No.
And this was administered like blood transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
So if she did get treatment, that's probably what she got.
Okay. Very interesting. That's one thing I would like to do research on, and this is for like my own free time, but just like medicine, the history of it.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's very interesting. Like, did you know, this is way off topic, but like doctors couldn't understand why they had such a high mortality rate when they were just, wouldn't put like gloves on and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then like some other doctors or the health board or whatever, posited that they should wash their hands before surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And the surgeons were so pissed off because they're like, well, we're not filthy animals, we're gentlemen. They're like, why would our hands be filthy? So dumb.
No, yeah. I remember reading that and I was just like, wow. But that is kind of like a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, most doctors, and not all of them, are a little stuck on themselves.
Yeah. Especially surgeons, I've read.
Yeah. Mm.
They can be, not all.
Right, yes, and that is our opinion. Bea completed the last 2 years of high school at Lindale Hall and then went to college and completed coursework in clinical lab techniques.
Wow.
So, like probably drawing blood and just doing minor nursing stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did it all go wrong?
Just wait. She worked several years in Cambridge as a medical lab technician, as well as trying other jobs out. But none of it was what she really wanted to do, so she went back to New York to become someone else. Dun, dun, dun. It was something that wasn't known until 2010, which was after her death, is that she took a job serving in the military from 1943 to 1945.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She would deny her military service during her career. I don't think it was because she felt bad or embarrassed of it, but because her personal life and career were separate.
Gotcha.
Which I think is totally healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really helpful for me doing this research, but I can certainly respect it.
Yeah. No, I get it. There are celebrities out there that don't want to talk about their personal life. And how valiant of her, she could have very well been like, I did my part. I was in the military. I'm
all that.
I love America. But she's just like, yeah, I did it. It's no big deal.
Yeah. I watched an interview of her and she's the person doing the interview did ask, hey, you were in the military, right? And she goes, oh, no. And she was like adjusting herself and she was like very uncomfortable. And then she went immediately into her career.
Oh, well.
So I don't think she like meant to like deny it, but like, no, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, this is kind of weird to say, but I've also had thoughts of if I ever got like famous or people were interviewing me, if they're like, oh, do you have any siblings? And being like, no. I have a sister. We haven't spoken in many years, but just being like, no, I don't.
They're like, oh gosh, when I go to the doctor, they're like, family history. I'm like, family? What family?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I have no history. So the Marines at the time were recruiting women with the slogan of free a Marine to fight. So women could do the non-combat jobs, which would free up the men to go fight in World War II.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I put in my notes, remember, that was a different world than it is today.
Yeah, I think Marilyn Monroe worked in a factory during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Because now if you're a woman, you can be in combat.
Mm-hmm.
But, then it was just like, oh, nope, it's for the men because the men are strong.
Yeah, well, gosh, that's not a bad job.
I mean, I admire anybody, going into combat because I cannot even imagine.
Yes.
Or even doing non-combat jobs is important.
Mm-hmm.
So, way to go, Marines. Bea was supposed to start a new job about this same time when she enrolled into the Marines, but she decided to no-show. Well, I don't know if she no-showed, but she didn't go to this new job and just went to the Marines instead.
Okay.
Her hope was to be assigned to ground aviation, but was willing to do whatever. She started out being a typist at the Marine Corps headquarters in Washington, D.C., and then transferred to North Carolina in 1944 to be a truck driver and dispatcher.
Damn.
She actually put in for this request to be transferred.
Be a truck driver?
Uh-huh. So I'm guessing a typist was not that exciting.
I doubt it. My grandfather had a similar path. He told a story once of when he went into the Air Force, he wanted to be in the motor pool, which was like driving around. He said he wanted to like drive trucks and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they were like, you scored too high on your tests, so he became a mechanic. But that's what he initially wanted to do.
Wow. Wow, that's kind of... They're like, you're too smart.
Yeah.
So...
Well, you would be wasted.
So in North Carolina, that is where she met her first husband and fellow Marine, Robert Allen Arthur. Bea was honorably discharged at the rank of Staff Sergeant in 1945.
Damn.
If you don't know, the ranks are Private, Corporal, Sergeant, and then Staff Sergeant.
All right.
So she was top class, man.
Yeah, she had some rank there.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes with her work ethic, I think. She's just all about it. Very hard worker. So Bea and Robert would hit Hollywood together, except Robert wasn't really an actor. He wanted to write. He's referred to as one of the leading dramatists in Hollywood.
All right.
But they would end up growing apart and divorcing in 1950.
Yeah, he said first husband there.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
Kept his name, though.
Yeah. Hey, that's my next line. She kept his name, though. Exactly what I said.
Oh, she's...
But she changed the spelling because his spelling was...
A-U?
A-U-R-T-H-U-R. And she did A-R-T-H-U-R.
I took your Kindle there and I read it last night.
I know.
No.
So this is when her famous Bea Arthur name began.
All right.
In 1947, Bea enrolled in dramatic workshop. So this is a little bit before what we're talking about now. At the School for Social Research in New York City. Bea would study under Erwin Piscator. He's a German director, so I can say Piscator. Piscator.
Yes, probably.
And that sounds German.
It sounds angry enough to be German.
I listened to a podcast and there's a guy on there. He's like, if you ever want to speak German, just speak angry.
Yeah.
And you've got the German language down. No offense to anybody that's German out there.
Yes.
Love you lots.
There's a lady I used to work with that was German, and she would say things in German every now and again. We'd be like, oh, how do you say this? And she'd be like, that means I'm happy today. Even when Conan O'Brien does his German impression, he's always like, Hast du Flügen?
Yeah, I think it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I love it. I love foreign languages of any kind. It's just so cool. Other students in her class were Harry Belafonte, Walter Matthau, Rod Steiger, and Tony Curtis.
All of them went on to fame, yeah.
Yeah, so some pretty popular people. Piscator would cast Bea in several plays like Taming of the Shrew and Clytemnestra, but she was not able to find professional work in the theater. So because she wasn't able to find anything, she started singing in nightclubs and reading bit parts on the Sid Caesar's Show of Shows.
Oh, wow. You want to hear something funny about her singing? I watched the Star Wars holiday special, which is considered
one of the... talk about that.
Oh, well, I'll just say it's considered one of the worst things ever made.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I watched the whole bit of her singing, and I thought it was neat.
It's not Star Wars. It's
a musical type thing.
Yeah, like Carrie Fisher played Princess Leia. She said that if she would ever have a party and people were over and she wanted them to leave, she would put the holiday special on and people would be gone in a bit. George Lucas refuses to talk about it.
Damn. She was content doing these small jobs because she was very happy in her life. She met her second husband, who was a fellow student and actor and director, Gene Saks. May have heard of him.
No.
He's a pretty big name.
Oh. Yeah. Maybe it'll come back to me, but no. Doesn't ring a bell.
I've heard the name. I have no idea anything about him.
Gene Saks?
Mm-hmm.
S-A-X?
Mm-hmm. S-A-K-S.
No.
All right. Well, they would get married May 28th of 1950. Now, if you remember, I said she got divorced in 1950.
Oh, married the same year?
Yeah.
How long after, do you know?
I don't know. It wouldn't say, and because she's so private about things, it was hard to, find a lot of things.
Well, gosh, maybe that's what my grandfather took his page out of her book when he married another lady, like shortly after my grandmother
I
died.
know.
Like, Bea Arthur did it, I'll do it.
And I know she wasn't married that long with her first husband, but still, it was just all like, damn.
Yeah.
But, that's okay. It's her life. But they would end up making audition rounds together.
Oh, okay.
Bea would catch a break in 1954, landing a role of Lucy Brown in the off-Broadway hit The Three Penny Opera. She received excellent reviews, praising her for her skillfully devastating scare, and she oozed comic demand. Other roles she would play throughout the 50s are an understudy for Ruth Winters in the musical Plain and Fancy, a main role in the musical Seventh Heaven, which was a flop, a comedy play called Nature's Way. She would meet Norman Lear in the 50s, who
Ooh.
loved her song Garbage in the musical Shoestring Review. I'm not sure if he was well known at the time, but he was a famous producer, writer, and director, which is Norman Lear.
Yes, very, very famous. I know he did All in the Family, I think. You could look him up. I can't list all the things. I wanted to say Brady Bunch, but no, that's not correct.
Norman Lear invited Bea to appear on an episode he was directing for a well-known comedy TV show called The George Gobel Show. The show ended in 1960 and kind of dropped off the edge of the earth, even though it was pretty popular at the time, because I've never heard of it.
No.
But it's funny. I listened to some of it.
Is it like a radio show, did you say?
No, it's a little TV show.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like, I don't know why I'm thinking Ed Sullivan show or
Mm-hmm.
just like where they interview people, but he didn't interview. Okay, it's not like that at all, actually. It was just a one-man show and his wife was there too. But anyway,
Oh, okay.
you just have to listen to it. Google it. Bea wouldn't really do much career-wise until 1966. So you may be thinking, what did she do? So Bea and Gene would adopt a couple baby boys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's so nice. One of them was adopted in 1961 and the other one in 1964. Bea loved being a mom, and her kids remember going on the road with her at a young age, hanging out in the dressing rooms of the plays that she was in.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
They also stated that Bea was a homebody. She would go out to do her acting gig and then come home, which is nice.
Yeah, I have a lot in common with her.
All right. And that's just kind of how she was. She was just kind of like, I'm going to go do my job and then I'm going to go home because that's where I love to be. She also loved animals. The kids always remember having a dog around. In 1966, she was the first to play the role of Yenti the matchmaker in Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
She worked with the famous director and choreographer Jerome Robbins. Some things I read, she spoke highly about him, but in one interview, she would open up and say he was the only director to make her cry.
Oh, wow.
She was ready to quit before the show even got to Broadway, but she stuck it out and she killed it. At this time, her hubby, Gene Sachs, was directing a musical called Mame. You may remember that if you've listened to the Lucille Ball episode, because we talked a little bit about Mame.
Mm-hmm.
And so he talked Bea into playing the part of Vera Charles. And Vera Charles is the alcoholic best friend of the leading actress, which at the time was Angela Lansbury.
Oh, wow. Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah. Bea originally wanted the leading role because who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But her husband felt Angela was best for the main role and Bea would be great playing Vera.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, he was right, but she was not happy about it.
You know, I don't get that. Sometimes the secondary roles, the supporting actors roles, kill the most.
Yeah, I think she just really wanted a leading role, and that'll kind of lead into my next thing.
Well, like Quentin Tarantino, his actors always, the best supporting actors are the ones that win for Oscars, like Christoph Waltz won twice, Samuel L. Jackson got nominated, Brad Pitt won, you could do a lot. Like the main actor doesn't always mean to be the interesting one.
Nope, not at all.
But I'm guessing that doesn't end well.
Well, it ends okay. I mean, she didn't want to do the musical, but she ended up winning a Tony Award for it.
That made up for it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think her husband was right. And that's why, because she won the Tony.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't want to do this, but I'm glad that I won something for it.
But I think she was acting a little differently because in 1968, they would be working together again. They created a musical based off the novel A Mother's Kiss. Bea played the leading role of Meg, who was an overbearing mother trying to help her son get into college. Unfortunately, it flopped, and it flopped hard.
Jeez.
Yeah, they tried to revise it, but it never made it to Broadway.
It's like you should have played the secondary character in this one.
Mm-hmm. Reviewers would describe Meg as crass and insensitive.
Damn.
Her own husband would say there's a strong natural feeling among people that they don't want to see a woman like Meg on stage.
This is in the 60s. What the fuck was she saying?
I don't know. It makes me think that Bea was using her husband to get a leading role.
Maybe.
She's like, let's do this play together. Nudge, nudge. I'm going to be in the leading role. Nudge, nudge.
Yeah, he's like, you fucked me over on the other one, so you're gonna have to give me this one. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna make sure this flops.
And it did.
I'm gonna write some shit for you to say in this one. I don't believe God is real. Yep, keep going.
That's good.
That's some good stuff there. People are gonna like that. Free abortions for everybody.
Whoa. So Bea's friend Norman Lear would create a show called All in the Family.
Holy shit.
So you were right.
He was pretty popular in the 70s, I know, but he went on and did a lot.
Yeah, it was definitely, this show was so popular in the day. I remember watching it, even though I wasn't alive in the 70s. So it went on for a long time.
It was very popular, too, even after.
Norman persuaded Bea to do a guest spot on the show as Maude in 1971. CBS loved her. So Norman and Bea went to work and created a spin-off series called Maude, which premiered in 1972.
Wow.
The show was a hit and had 6 seasons. It also had some controversial topics that were not normally on TV, like alcoholism, drugs, porn, and the big one, abortion.
Oh, God.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. I'll say it here. Roe vs. Wade just recently got overturned, and we've been trying to get away from it, like watching shows that you don't think things like that would come up in. And it does. Like, we watched The Orville, and it's heavy-ass topics this season.
It's just everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, did they know this was coming? I'm sure this was shot before all of that, and I wrote all of this before
Yeah.
that, so I didn't even put in consideration that abortion was going to be a big thing.
It's crazy how it's impacted our lives. I was watching The West Wing, and they were like, oh, yeah, the Roe versus Wade is one of the greatest pieces of legislation we have in this country to protect our women. I'm like, it
Yeah.
was.
Not anymore.
So, it sucks how often it comes up. You try to get your mind off of it, and you're watching TV and movies, and it's just there.
Yeah, it just angers me so much.
Next, we're going to do an episode on the movie Revolutionary Road. No, she gets an abortion in that
I
movie.
was like, what?
She does it, well, spoilers for Revolutionary Road, she does it herself and dies.
Oh, damn.
It's in the 50s.
And that I'm so scared of that for a lot of women, that they're not going to feel like they have a choice.
Yeah.
And everybody should have a choice on what they want to do with their freaking body. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. All I'll say is just stop telling people what to do.
Yeah, please.
Dumbasses.
Yeah. That's our thoughts and opinions. There you go. But Maude on the show was 47 and she ended up pregnant and she decided to have an abortion. There was a lot of talk, it wasn't an easy thing. It was a hard decision. You can see it on the show. It did cause a lot of backlash, but the show went on for another 6 years, ending in 1978.
Wow.
Bea was nominated several times for an Emmy, but would not end up winning it until 1977. It was her first Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress.
Damn, I wonder, was that the first time they ever talked about abortion probably on TV?
I think so.
God.
I mean, they had protesters. She got hate mail. It was a thing. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But there was probably a lot of people that were okay with it since they continued to, get series going.
Yeah.
Because this was early on in the series.
You said it was like in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So gosh. And you know what's really fucking disgusting about that is that we're still at the same place. Like, we've been stuck for 50 years now at this point.
Yeah. We basically just erased all of that.
Well, it's just like the same fucking protests are still going. The same ideas are still there. The same fights going. It's just depressing.
It's exhausting, but we got to stay on it and not let people tell us what to do.
I don't know how true it is because no names were given, and I think it's just because the young girl was so young at the time. But I just read an article this morning about a 10-year-old girl who was denied an abortion. She was raped, denied an abortion in Ohio, so she's going to Indiana where it's still legal.
My word.
10. And you know what some of the comments were on there? Wow, this isn't real. No girl could be able to get pregnant so young.
Yeah, they can.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah, anyway, I'm going off.
That just makes my heart hurt so much.
Yes.
Oh, I hope she's okay. But during the first year of Maude, Bea would play her old role of Vera Charles again in the hit Mame.
No.
With Lucille Ball playing the leading role as Auntie Mame. So this wasn't like a play, it was the actual movie.
Oh, okay. When you keep saying Mame, it makes me think you're meaning Fame, the movie.
Oh, yeah, no.
Fame!
No.
I'm gonna live
forever. No, it's M-A-M-E.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully, God, I hope I'm saying it right.
No.
I don't know any other way to say it. I didn't dive too much into Mame when I covered Lucille Ball, but I guess Bea and Lucy didn't really like each other.
Geez, it's kind of a habit for Bea, I have heard.
Yeah. No, we'll talk about that. Lucy knew Bea really didn't want to be there. She's only doing this basically for her husband. And Bea would say that the film was a tremendous embarrassment and terribly miscast. And also from what I read, from what I understand, is that Angela Lansbury wanted to be the main role. That's what she did on Broadway. But Warner Brothers wanted Lucille Ball, which seems weird once you hear what I have to say. But
well, it seems like Lucille Ball would be a bigger draw than Angela Lansbury.
Maybe.
I don't really know what she did first. Well, it depends on the time. She did play, Angela Lansbury was in a crazy movie with Frank Sinatra called The Manchurian Candidate, where she's like, their son is under control to try and assassinate a politician. Or the president. Oh. It's been a while, and I have only seen the Denzel Washington version, but I know that she played the crazy mother in that one.
Yeah, it was rumored that Lucille Ball only got the part because she funded most of the movie.
There you go.
I'm thinking this might be true because they had to do Lucy's singing scenes in sections and splice them together because she kept getting out of breath.
Oh, wow. Well, I just watched a very crazy documentary about the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau. And it was just kind of this newish director. He'd only directed a few movies, but he had this really good idea for the movie. But then Marlon Brando got cast as Dr. Moreau, the main character in the movie, of course. And they were like, the budget for the movie went through the roof after that because they were like, everybody wanted in on it because Marlon Brando is a huge star. So when you say that she was in it, I could only imagine the funds probably started coming in.
Yeah, maybe.
They're like, but you said she paid for it herself, though?
That's what it read to me. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
Or to be a fact, but that's kind of what I got out of it. They also had to use what they had at the time to make her voice sound better, as she was a very heavy smoker, who wasn't at that time.
See, we were talking about that the other day.
We actually were, and I kind of forgot that I even had that in there.
Because I was like, what was Lucille's voice like at the end? Because Billy West, he's a famous voice actor. He did a bunch of stuff on like Futurama, Ren and Stimpy, but he used to call into the Howard Stern show pretending to be old Lucille Ball, and he'd always be like, Howard, how's it going?
It wasn't that bad, but what we listened to, it was just, you could tell.
See, you could tell she had smoked. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When Maude ended in 1978, so did Bea and Gene's marriage. Nothing that I could find said why they got divorced. But again, she was very private and probably wanted to keep it that way.
Understandable.
Gene would end up remarrying a year later, but Bea would remain single for the remainder of her years.
And he married Betty White?
Is that why she doesn't like her?
Yeah.
In 1985, Bea would tell an interviewer, I guess marriage means that you're a woman and not a person. So I'm not sure what to read into that, but it seems like Gene wanted her to be something that she didn't want to be.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Which, again, with the recent rulings in the court, that kind of seems how we're going back to.
I know.
Which means I'm about to get a lot of power over you, hon.
Well, think again, buddy.
No, the law states that. God, that'll be fucking crazy. Let's hope not. But, yeah, It's probably like my grandfather and grandpa, we called them Ma and Papa.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really get to live her life. She served him.
Exactly.
She did what he wanted, and, that's how it was.
And I don't see you being that kind of husband. I don't think you could do that.
Oh, God, like, I haven't seen it, but I imagine that's kind of what The Handmaid's Tale is. If we went to that for real, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Are there men in there that don't do that? That don't want to do it? Are they all dead at this point?
Well, there is, but I don't know as much about it. It's been a while since I've watched it. But basically, if you're not, there's like a council that will come and investigate and basically watch you do it.
Oh, Jesus.
Perform the act.
So you'd have to, yeah.
It's an audience.
I would be those guys that would be against it. Probably killed early on in the show.
Yeah, and if you're against it, you're best just to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Just go to Canada. That's what everybody did.
Is Canada in the show? Oh, no, we're just talking about The Handmaid's Tale, but is Canada in the show still normal, or are they fucked up too?
No, they're normal. Yeah. Canada's like the place to be during that show.
It's quickly becoming a reality here, I'll tell you that. I know people probably didn't tune in for this to be so political, but, it is what it is. We're a little depressed this 4th of July.
Yeah, that's for sure. The Handmaid's Tale, Canada does have their, both people that are for it and against it. So it's not like, whoo, everybody is happy in Canada. There's still that divide.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting show, but you have to have, I cried probably every episode.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. It's very heart-wrenching, and if you've ever had any kind of sexual trauma in your life, it'll probably touch some things that you haven't felt in a while.
Oh, Jesus.
From experience. But back to Bea, because that's
Bea
more
Arthur,
exciting.
how the hell did we get off on this?
Holy shit.
Remember the Bea Arthur episode where they just talked about Roe vs. Wade the whole episode?
Yeah. And when we're recording this is July 2nd.
Yes.
So you probably won't get this until August, this episode. So keep that in mind, because Scott mentioned the 4th of July, which we are not going to be celebrating.
I mean, we don't really anyway. It's just usually it's just my parents and I and stuff. But my mom and dad, my mom's sick this week, so we didn't really have any plans to do it. But I mean, we're not. I'll just go ahead and say we're not going out of our way to be like, fuck the country. We're not going to celebrate.
Right.
We don't really do much. I mean, we don't really have a place to shoot fireworks off.
Yeah, we can. Like where we're at, it's okay. But our dog Lily is just so afraid. Like the town had their big firework thing last night, and she was just scared to death.
Very scared, yeah. And I think we're coming off as anti-American now, or at least I am, because a very weird interaction this morning when I left to get the groceries to pick them up. Our neighbor, I couldn't hear him very well because he was a little ways away from me, but I think he was telling me that they're going to take their American flags down that they have in their yard tonight. And I don't know why he told me that.
That was very weird.
I'm like, I don't care.
But he's interesting. So
yeah, they have little American flags like on the their sidewalk area where like the street meets their curb.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I could have misheard him. If he's listening to this podcast, please come and let me know what the hell that was about. But he was just like, again, very far away. But he's like, oh, we're going to take these down.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, why are you telling me that? You keep them up.
He's probably upset.
I guess.
Because they do that every year. They're very patriotic, but they're upset about everything going on as well. So
I thought about
it's
getting...
just disappointing.
Yeah, I thought about getting a flag and hanging it upside down because that means the country is in distress.
Well,
it's a sign that I don't know where that came from, but Rage Against the Machine, when they played Saturday Night Live one year, there was some politician that was running for government or something, and they wanted to hang an American flag upside down, and they were like, no.
Yeah.
But that's just a sign.
That might cause some problems.
It's a sign that the America is in distress.
Well, we are certainly that.
Be like, Happy 4th of July, upside down flag.
And again, I want to stress these are our opinions and our opinions alone.
Yeah, a lot of editing on this one here. It's going to be like 10 minutes once I edit out all of our opinions. Be like, it's a better idea just to cut this out.
So we're going to talk about your favorite part right now. In 1978, Bea became a Jedi. She appeared in the Star Wars Holiday Special, which was a variety show set in the Star Wars universe.
I didn't know she was a Jedi. I know in the clip that I watched, she's a bartender.
She is. I just wanted to throw that in there.
She's a hidden Jedi. She doesn't reveal it, but she's a Jedi.
Because I'm not a Star Wars fan and know all the lingo. And I was just like, That sounds cool.
Her force power is not getting along with people.
But Star Wars the movie was a big hit the previous year, so the show is hoping to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm.
Bea played a gruff bartender whose customers did not want to go home when the planet had a curfew. So she serenaded them with a song called Good Night But Not Goodbye, which I'll try to link the video
It's something.
on on our social, well, probably not social media, we'll see, either social media or in our show notes. You can find a link.
It's something. I mean, it's hated, like, and it's one of those weird 70s, with like the Star Wars holiday specials featuring music from Jefferson Airplane.
Oh yeah.
And just, it is bizarre. Like Harrison Ford, you can tell he does not want to be there.
I just listened to the part where she sang,
Yeah.
and I thought it was okay.
Well, you watch the rest of it, it's bad.
Maybe. From 1985 to 1992, Bea would play a sarcastic divorced teacher named Dorothy on The Golden Girls.
All
Here
right,
we are.
there it is.
We've made it. We've made it to the Golden Girls.
Thank you for being a friend.
If you have never seen The Golden Girls, I would encourage you to do so because it is super funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's a comedy sitcom about 4 senior citizens living together in Florida because that's where everyone retires. Hurricanes. That's my only concern about Florida.
Yeah.
Hurricane.
Well, in Seinfeld, the show, his parents live in a community, and hopefully it's not like this, but it's all like politics, like older people, be like, oh, get him out, or we don't like him, he needs to get out of here. That would be my biggest fear if we ever retired into a community like that. It's because those people have nothing better to do.
Oh, no.
So they might as
Meddle
well
in your business.
ruin your lives.
Why not? But the 4 ladies would cope with aging, looking for love, and enjoying each other's friendship. This show would also help Bea get her second Emmy in 1988. Good for her. So the rumor is that Bea and Betty White did not get along.
Mm-hmm.
So I did do a little bit of research on that. Bea's son would admit his mother could sometimes be difficult to get along with.
Mm-hmm.
He would say, it would make my mom unhappy that in between takes, Betty would go and talk to the audience. It wasn't jealousy. It was a focus thing. My mom unknowingly carried the attitude that it was fun to have somebody to be angry at.
Nah.
It was almost like Betty became her nemesis, someone she could always roll her eyes at work.
I could see that being frustrating if you're in the moment. They're going to start working crowds.
Yeah, but that's her thing. And I think, again, Bea was very introverted probably, and she did not want that attention.
Yeah.
Like if she was doing a play, of course she would want that interaction, but just to go up and actually get that attention, I totally get it.
Yes.
Like with this podcast, I kind of want people to be like, woo, yeah, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
But if I was to actually go up to somebody, I would be bumbling idiot. Like I'm just not that kind of interactive person.
Different personalities for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. But Betty White would say in a 2011 interview with the Village Voice that she was not fond of me. She found me a pain in the neck sometimes. It was my positive attitude, and that made Bea mad sometimes. Sometimes if I was happy, she'd be furious.
All right.
But have you been around a person that is just so bubbly and happy all the freaking time? It gets annoying.
Yeah.
Not enough to dislike that person, but for a moment you're like, my God, can you just be depressed for a second?
I think when I've been around those types of people, it just comes off as very fake.
You're
like, oh, this isn't real.
Yeah, I have watched some other interviews with Betty White, and she is a little flirty.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting when I get to her, when I research her more.
A lot of men in her wake.
I don't know, but I'm thinking it's going to ruin what my view of her is.
Well, that's the problem with celebrities, is that you think that they're like these great people, they're super nice, but everybody has problems.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying this makes Bea an awful person.
Right.
She has every right to be, upset or annoyed by people.
That's how I think I would be. I listened to an interview with Jeff Goldblum on the Conan O'Brien podcast the other day, and he seems so nice. He actually is interested in people, wants to hear from them, remembers their names. And I'm like, man, if I was a celebrity, they'd probably think I was an asshole because, sometimes I don't want to talk to people, or sometimes I don't want to do something. And, I probably would, well, the name thing, I don't know, I'd probably forget somebody's name. And I just was like, I would make a terrible celebrity because they'd be like, oh, you're going to go on the Conan O'Brien podcast today. I'm like, today was supposed to be my day off. What the fuck? And they'd be like, oh, he's an asshole. He's difficult.
And I'd be like, Conan? What? Conan?
Conan
Is that how you say it, Conan?
Brohyan.
Me and my names, I'm telling you.
So I feel like I would be like Bea Arthur, where I'd just be like, you know what, Betty? I'm in a fucking mood today. I didn't sleep very well. I kind of don't want to be here today. Shut the fuck up, Betty White. Never thought I'd say that.
This is kind of out of nowhere, but I realized that I had nowhere in my notes how tall Bea is unless we get there, but I'm almost done. But she was 5'10".
Estelle Getty is 4'11".
I know.
That's very short. And then
tiny.
Rue and Betty White, Rue McClanahan 5'3" and Betty White 5'4".
Okay.
So among those, she was a giant.
For sure. Yeah, she definitely towered over them if you watch the show or some of the pictures that she's in and stuff.
That's like just a quick story. My dad, whenever he would say, like, when he first met my mom's side of the family, all of my mom's side of the family are very short, which I thought I was at the time going to be because I didn't hit my growth spurt till very late. Mm-hmm. But he was like, I would go over there and he was like, I was like a giant. He's like, I would stand around all these short people because he's like 6'1" and they're all like 5'5", 5'. Like, I was like a giant.
Wow.
So when I didn't hit my growth spurt for the longest time, I was 5'2", going into senior year. I was like, this is it. This is as good as it's gonna get.
Aw. Now you're taller than me.
6'1", it happened. Mm-hmm. It finally happened.
In 1991, Bea Arthur did make an appearance on the American Comedy Awards. She did the Urkel dance with Jalil White. Mm-hmm. And I'll try to post that video as well because it's kind of cute.
What's the Urkel dance? I guess I don't remember.
Yeah, you'll have to. It's like some weird, like, put your arms in the front and put your arms in the back. And there's like, some pelvic moving going on there.
Yeah.
As I'm doing it in my chair.
I didn't realize it had a name.
After the dance, depending on what YouTube video you see, but the camera pans out to the crowd and you can see Betty White say, "Bea, you are so wonderful."
Oh.
At least that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and I have nothing, I didn't mean when I called Betty White a bitch, I was like, from Bea's perspective.
Oh, right.
I've heard nothing but good things about Betty White, so it's just funny to me that she's probably the nicest, and she's like, "Oh, Bea, you're just so wonderful." And she's like, "God damn you, Betty White." It's like, "Bea, I got you some food and some drinks, and do you need me to get you anything?" You son of a bitch.
You slap it out of her hands. Don't you ever do that again.
She's just constantly happy, and Bea is constantly just mad at her for it. That'd be like a funny show.
That would be.
Bea, I noticed your tires were a little low, so I took them and got them aired up and had your car washed. Son of a bitch.
Next thing you know, Betty White's car is keyed and her tires are slashed.
And Betty White's just like, well, it happens.
Okay, I'm just going to have to call AAA.
She's like, you fake bitch. I know you're so fake.
Oh, that's... At the end, Bea would also say, "Hey, MC Hammer, try to touch that."
Whoa.
I'm like, wow, that's so funny. Bea would have a guest appearance on the popular show Malcolm in the Middle in the 2000s.
Oh.
I remember that show too. I didn't really watch it a whole lot.
I watched some of it. It was actually very funny.
Mm-hmm.
That was Walter White before Walter White.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Bryan Cranston was on there as the dad.
The family would take a vacation. In this Malcolm in the Middle episode, the family takes a vacation except for Dewey, who has to stay home with an overage babysitter who is played by Bea.
Oh, right. Doesn't she die? Or am I mixing that up?
I think so.
I do remember that kind of an episode, but maybe I'm mixing it up with Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah. I just watched a small clip, and I don't think she did.
Yeah. All right.
Are you going to look it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she does not die. They actually, her and Dewey become good friends.
Good. Okay, I didn't think so, but, who knows. She was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Guest Star, or Guest Actress, but she didn't win. Actually, Jean Smart, who played Lorna in Frasier, ended up winning
Oh, okay.
the Emmy.
Adding on another woman that Bea hated.
Right? No, I don't think so. Bea was in Futurama, the episode
Yes.
in 2001. It was called Amazon Women in the Mood.
Yes, that's right. I did look it up because I was like, what have I seen Bea Arthur in?
She was the voice of Femputer, who was the leader of a man-hating tribe of Amazonian women. She would sentence Fry and his friends to death by snoo.
Yes, that's become a very big meme these days, where it's like death by snoo, where it's like death by sex.
Mm-hmm.
and it shows these like skeletons of these guys. Like the skeletons, if I remember right, they all have smiles,
Yes.
but like their pelvises are broken.
Yes.
Because these women, these Amazon women, are gigantic.
Yeah, they. And then they were all like, "Yes, please, death by snoo sounds great."
Well, in the clip, if I remember right, that's funny because they start smiling and then they're like horror. They're like, we're gonna have sex. We're gonna die by sex. We're gonna have sex.
I thought, yeah, if you could look that one up too, or I'll try to link it. We'll see.
I think she and Bender get together at the end.
No, I didn't know that. But when Bea did decide to leave the Golden Girls, which was in 1991, the last episode would air in 1992. It kind of opened her creative juices. She ended up collaborating with the pianist Billy Goldenberg and started her own one-woman Broadway show.
All right.
It was called Bea Arthur on Broadway, Just Between Friends.
I thought you were gonna say Bea Arthur, the women I've killed. And I know we really have not made a case for her being mean or like not liking people, but
No.
it makes me laugh to think of her as just being this hated or like this hateful person of like people being nice to her and just not liking them.
I know. But this would open in 2002, and it was kind of funny because she would open and end every show reading a recipe for lamb, which included face twitches and punctuated by voice inflections, just to show that it's not what you say, but how you say it. So she would just read this nonchalant recipe, but would read it differently each time, like maybe sexy or mean or all those different
Very interesting.
feelings.
Yeah, just to show the differences.
Yeah. The show was a hit and earned a Tony nomination for production.
Ah, pretty cool.
Bea would continue to drop in as a guest star on different TV programs until late in life when she was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Was she a smoker?
It didn't say anything, and I didn't find any pictures or anything with a cigarette because, like, when I did Lucille Ball, whoa, like,
You could tell.
oh my gosh. Every picture, she even modeled with a cigarette in her hand. I mean,
Well, I was going to say she got all those cigarettes for free for modeling them.
maybe.
I don't know.
Her final appearance was to accept a pop culture award with her fellow Golden Girls, Betty White and Rue McClanahan,
No.
on June 8th, 2009. Unfortunately, at this time, Estelle Getty, who played Sophia, had already passed, so she wasn't there.
But she was like, wasn't she the youngest of them though?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Died first. That's
I
sad.
know, it is. Because Bea was such a private person, she didn't tell anyone in the industry about her cancer diagnosis. She passed away less than a year later on April 25th, 2009, with her family by her side.
No.
It was a devastating surprise to her fans and those in the industry. A big surprise would come to the Allie Fortney Center, who helps homeless LGBTQ plus youth in the form of a donation of $300,000.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. The Allie Forney Center funds had dried up at this time, and they were facing eviction. The money donated helped them stay afloat.
That's
So
amazing.
that's really nice. And Bea also gave $100,000 to the American Indian College Fund.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
I thought that was just super neat. That on her passing, that she would kind of give $400,000, which again maybe isn't a whole lot compared to maybe the millions that she was worth. I don't know.
I mean, anything at all helps. As he said, it helped him stay afloat, so that's amazing.
Exactly. So I just thought, man, what a good lady.
Yeah, she seemed like she was very good, and I actually identified with her because, like I said, if I was a celebrity, I'd probably be grumpy and mean and nasty sometimes because you just sometimes you wake up that way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think she was just a real person that didn't want to just act her whole life, because it's almost, that's kind of what actors and actresses have to do. They
Yeah.
have to act on screen and off screen, and they have to be on all the time, which is probably exhausting.
Yeah, when we did the episode on Jolt, when we recorded it, I was not feeling it. I'm just like, I don't want to do this. And then we did it, and it was fine. So maybe I would be a good actor.
Yeah, you just got to get the wheels rolling.
Yes, probably. So there is, if you type in Bea Arthur smoking, you will find a few photos, including
yeah?
this badass one right here.
Wow, okay.
We can post that too.
Mickey Mouse?
But no, yes, there is like a Mickey Mouse, but it's just her sitting here taking a drag off of smoke looking badass.
Okay,
We need to post this.
maybe she did smoke.
Yeah, it seems like she did. That always scares me, though. It's like people getting cancer, like lung cancer, without smoking. Like Walter White. I know it's a show, but, he had lung cancer.
Yeah.
Although they did make reference to him working around chemicals quite a bit when he was younger. So maybe, but that's me, where I'm like, am I going to get lung cancer? I don't smoke.
Well, I think before it was like outlawed that you couldn't smoke in restaurants or out in public, basically. I mean, you can get lung cancer from secondhand smoke.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that a lot of people did have that diagnosis and didn't smoke. I mean, fortunately, now that's kind of different. You can actually go to a restaurant and enjoy your meal and not have to worry about, the person next to you lighting up.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That shows how old we are, is that we remember when it was a smoking and non-smoking section.
Yeah, my mom smoked a lot. Well,
Yeah.
both of my parents did. And I just remember every time when we finish our meal, they'd light up and then it'd just be like cigarette smoke. And it would just ruin everything for me. And I mean, I know they had smoking sections and non-smoking sections, but while you're eating, I don't know.
It's just
not
like
my thing anyway.
after sex, they just want to light a cigarette up after eating.
They're like, oh, I feel so good right now. Let's just top it off.
I've smoked a few times, and it's just hot air, and I don't get it. It's just hot air into your lungs.
I have never tried it. I've never had a desire. Nothing of that.
A good friend of mine, when I worked at Best Buy, smoked, and I was like, oh yeah, and he would be all like, I smoke American spirits. And I was like, oh, are those supposed to be better? I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try them out. They've got flavor, and it's hot air.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
That's weird. So there's Bea Arthur.
After all that.
You should be used to our squirrel moments.
Yeah.
We have so many of them.
That was Bea Arthur. She did smoke. I will save this photo because it is pretty badass looking.
Yeah, that is kind of neat. But hopefully you guys are enjoying these. If you are, we would just ask that you rate and review us on whatever platform. There's a lot of different ones that have rate and review now. And share this with a friend.
Yeah.
If you have a friend sitting next to you and they're not listening to the Film Obsessed Couple, you take their phone, as long as they're your friend. Don't do it to a stranger because I don't want you to get hurt. Take their phone, download whatever app they need to listen to a podcast, and then find us and then be like, dude, what are you doing with your life? Listen to these people.
Yes, I can't stress that enough. Don't listen to it on your own phone, but get another phone and listen to it together.
Yeah. But download it on each phone.
Yes. However many people there are with you need each to use their own phone.
Yes. But we do appreciate you listening, and we want to keep this series going, so we would appreciate all the shares that you can get and have other people join in. And we would love feedback. You can get us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Email us, thefilmobsessedcouple@gmail.com. If you do happen to reach out to us, we will shout you out on the show here.
Yep.
So on an episode, we'll do whatever, man. Let's get us out there.
Yes.
And that's
Very
it.
cool. I learned quite a bit.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining.